distinguished guests who are sharing the same support Sri Lanka. First, I would like to introduce Jeremy Small, who was a Victorian Socialist candidate for Darwin in Victoria at the last federal election. Jeremy has been a construction worker for 2 decades on trade union activities for his whole working life. Please welcome Jeremy Small.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. On behalf of Victorian Socialists, I would like to make, if I can try, to make 3 points in 3 minutes. And point number 1 is that the struggle of the Sri Lankan people today is the struggle of the world. Throughout the world, in recent years, we have seen the billionaires enriching themselves and ordinary people going backwards or being plunged into poverty. Yesterday, it was Lebanon in crisis. Today, it's Sri Lanka. Tomorrow, it's Turkey. Even in the heartlands of capitalism, even in the United States, we are seeing the economy enter a deep recession, even while inflation attacks the living standards of working class people. So the resistance that workers and the poor, that everyone in Sri Lanka, that all the ordinary people in Sri Lanka are putting up to the Rajapaksa regime is a front line in the struggle for all of us around the world. So I want to congratulate you on being part of that struggle. The second remark I wanted to make was about the recent visit by an Australian minister, the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill, to the island of Sri Lanka. And I looked at press releases, I looked at speeches, I looked at comments that she'd made, I looked at media reports. I looked in vain for any sign of solidarity from the newly elected Labor Party here with the struggling people of Sri Lanka, with the struggling workers of Sri Lanka. I looked in vain for any sign of solidarity with the protesting Tamil mothers in the north, protesting for justice in the wake of genocide. I looked in vain for any sign of solidarity with the ordinary people of Sri Lanka. Instead, what I saw from this Labor government was solidarity with the regime in Sri Lanka. And it was solidarity on the issue of borders. It was solidarity on the issue of Australia and the Sri Lankan regime cooperating to keep desperate people in their place in the aftermath of genocide and in the ongoing reality of military occupation of the Tamil areas in the north of the country. I was shocked. I was not surprised, but I was shocked at this sort of solidarity coming from Claire O'Neill, the Australian Home Affairs Minister, which gets me to my third point, which is that the sort of solidarity that Victorian Socialists believes in is the absolute opposite of all of that. We don't stand in solidarity with the Rajapaksa regime. We don't stand, and neither do we stand in solidarity with those fragments, more than fragments of the Rajapaksa regime that have now detached themselves from the government and are attempting to place themselves in the mass movement which is sweeping the country. And we see this in every single freedom struggle that ever has existed on the face of the earth. We saw it in Egypt in 2011. Once the regime was doomed, some rats deserting the sinking ship attempted to come over supposedly to the side of the people. And that's what we're seeing in Sri Lanka now. We don't stand in solidarity with those elements. Who we stand in solidarity with are the brave students camped out all night on the streets of Sri Lanka. Who we stand in solidarity with are the grieving mothers in the north of Sri Lanka, the Tamil mothers still struggling for justice. Who we stand in solidarity with are the workers of Sri Lanka, the garment workers, the health workers who we've seen on strike in recent weeks and recent months, the free trade zone workers, the teachers union. We stand in solidarity with all of them. We stand in solidarity, especially today, with the rail workers. And you probably heard the story that I just heard of Kandy, where the government attempted to shut down the railway system to prevent people from getting to the protest, and it was the railway workers themselves that started to get those trains moving so that the democracy movement can continue. We stand in solidarity with every single person on the island of Sri Lanka and the nation of Sri Lanka who is standing up for justice today. We hope that you kick out Rajapaksa, the remnants of that regime, and we hope that you keep on kicking against the system that has profited so handsomely from that regime. Thank you very much.
Now, I would like to welcome Apsara Sabarathan, who is the Secretary of Multicultural Greens Victoria. Please welcome Apsara. Hi everyone, how are you today? Can you put our hands together to the organisers of today's event? And for all of these rallies that are happening around the globe as well. So my name is Adara Sabarathan, and I'm the Secretary of Multicultural Greens Victoria. And before we get started, I also would like to pay my respect to the people of the working people of the First Nations whose land we're standing on right now. These lands have been unceded, and I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present. It's really great to see so many Sri Lankans here today calling for an end to this humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in our home country. Much of this blame for this crisis falls squarely on the shoulders of the Rajapaksa family and their cronies, who over the last 2 decades have mismanaged the economy and engaged in corruption, nepotism and human rights violations against Muslims and Tamils in the guise of national security. This has allowed the family to institute iron fist policies that squash any dissent while spending big on an over-bloated army, weapons and ill-conceived infrastructure projects that are now white elephants. The aim was to create an illusion of an economic boom while entrenching the power of the Rajapaksa family and enriching many around them. Where was Australia in the last 2 decades? Both the Labor and Liberal governments have been complicit in the corrupt practices and the war crimes of the Rajapaksa family. Australia has supplied and continues to supply patrol boats to the Sri Lankan Army and the Sri Lankan Navy with the express purpose of turning back boats. However, this policy is incredibly troubling in the face of an unfolding crisis where Sri Lankans who are incredibly desperate are taking to the border in order to escape the economic and political nightmare that they are faced with. The Albanese government needs to take decisive steps to increase the intake of Sri Lankans under its humanitarian refugee program, and Australia needs to direct its humanitarian aid to providing food and fuel so that the current chronic shortages can actually be alleviated. We also call on the Albanese government to desist from refouling Sri Lankans back to harm. And they have been doing this for the last 2 decades with many Tamil refugees being refouled. We do not want that to continue. And also we want Australia to impose targeted financial sanctions, asset freezes and travel bans on the corrupt Rajapaksa government under the Magenski Act, which is an act that we was introduced with. And finally, if any of you live in Dandenong area, there is going to be a motion put forward at the Dandenong Council on Monday night at 7 p.m. If you are living anywhere around that area, you are more than welcome to go and actually see the motion being put forward. It is a very important motion because it is calling the federal government to take some of the actions I've outlined just now. So it is very important for you to turn up, to show your solidarity and actually say, we count. If you are interested, the address is Level 2, 225 London Lonsdale Street in Denmark. Thank you very much.
Warella Kota Ranil Warella Palakain Bala Ganiu Jana Balaye Bala Ganiu Warella Kota Ranil Warella අපි ආවා වනසපුරට අපි ආවා මේ ආපන් අකුල ගනි එන්න කලින් පිටත් වේව මේ ආපන් අකුල ගනි එන්න කලින් පිටත් වේව යන්න ඉන්න බල කියද්දි බලෙන් ඉන්න ඉන්න බල කියද්දි බලෙන් ඉන්න මේ අහපන් දැන් ඵලයන් අකුල ආගෙන දැන් ඵලයන් මේ අහපන් දැන් ඵලයන් අකුල ගෙනම දැන් ඵලයන් අපට එපා උඹත් එපා පවුල එපා උඩුත් එපා අපට එපා උඹත් එපා පවුල එපා උඩුත් එපා බැරි ජනපති බැරි අගමැති තොපිට කැමැති හොඳටම ඇති බැරි ජනපති බැරි අගමැති තොපිට කැමැති හොඳටම ඇති මේ අහපන් බහැලා වරෙන් ගනු දෙනුවක් තියෙනවා බං මේ අහපන් බහැලා වරෙන් ගනු දෙනුවක් තියෙනවා බං බඩගින්නේ මිය යන්නේ නෑ දන්නේ අපි එන්නේ බඩගින්නේ මිය යන්නේ නෑ දන්නේ අපි එන්නේ වරෙල්ලා ගෝඨ රනිල් වරෙල්ලා ගෝඨ රනිල් වරෙල්ලා ගෝඨ රනිල් වරෙල්ලා ජයවා